Hey, and we are live. And my mic, and we are live. This time definitely works. I'm sure it works. Alright, so you guys know the drill. Welcome to another critic session of 3D animations. This time it will be Overwatch's main cinematic trailer, which is when the game was released. This is what we saw. So I'm going to disappear off screen, and everything about my audio settings should have been set up already, and I'll just mute myself and play.
Conflict. As the world teetered on the brink of anarchy, a new hope arose. An elite international task force charged with ending the war and restoring liberty to all nations. Overwatch. Soldiers, scientists, adventurers, oddities. Guardians who secured global peace for a generation. Under its steadfast protection, the world recovered. And today, though its watch has ended, its soaring ideals of freedom and equality will never be forgotten.
That was so cool! In that one battle, they had Soundquake. Remember, he has, like, chest missiles? So which one's your favorite? Mine's Fusionator. No. Tracer. Yeah, Tracer. She's like, cheers, love. The cavalry's here. Pew, pew, pew. Whoa. That's Doomfist's gauntlet. Oh man, they said he could level a skyscraper. And remember, he was all fighting and Winston beat him and was like, Primal Punch!
That's only in the holovids. Everybody knows Overwatch got shut down. Half of them are just mercenaries now.
Enjoying the exhibit? All right, playtime's over. Get to cover.
Come on, move it!
There you are.
Psst, what are you looking at? Don't worry, loves. Cavalry's here. Come on, big guy. Get up. Oh no!
Stay here.
You know, the world could always use more heroes.
Yeah! That was awesome!
Ta-da! I am back, and we shall commence with the critiquing. So let's go. Deja vu. Opening title, you know, it's nothing much to say. So this sort of renderings, they may look 2D, but they are actually 3D in nature. So the entire scene is 3D. There's nothing 2D about this from what I can see. Even the background, they should be 3D renderings. So this is very akin to the game released by Telltale Studio. What are the two games? A Wolf Among Us, and the other one, the predecessor, so-called, The Walking Dead. When Walking Dead came out, I thought the game was done in 2D. Then I realized it's actually 3D. What they did was using cell shading, so it looks very much like 2D. So over here, it isn't fully cell shading. I won't even call this cell shading, but it definitely gives a very 2D look, which is a very nice touch, a good change from either a fully 3D environment or a fully 3D kind of rendering. It just changed things up. And what is really good about these sequences is, even though they may look like 2D and they are usually so kind of like still frame, there are still elements that move in the back. Like in the top right, you see the planes flying by. The flag is waving in the air, the wind. Genji's katana is still moving, his arm is still moving. This soldier guy is still moving, and the only exception is this one where none of the characters move. But then, I think over here is quite obvious. You can see the depth. Like, even I think this sort of depth is a kind of rendering that 2D drawings just cannot nail. Then when you look at this, it's quite apparent that this is a 3D rendering. Tracer's gun, muzzle flash, and I think Reinhardt is doing a swing as well. It just looks that way. Everyone is still, but then the background foreground rotation is still happening, and I like this transition from on screen, not from on screen, like from a proper full immersive view, it pulls out into a screen rendering. Then it goes to establish that this actually we're watching a screen.
That was so cool.
There's something about the turn of the hooded guy over here. So it looks a little bit choppy because as he completes his turn to the right, the moment he is like completed the turn, he starts shifting the weight left, and it's quite a huge shift. So you will see that is in this sequence particular, like especially around this region, you will see that the leg movement is a little bit rough.
So cool. In that one battle. In that was so cool. In that one was so cool. It was so cool.
Yeah, it looks like it snaps around to the front and then it starts leaning to the left. So what I would recommend is actually to not have his body fully turned fully, maybe just a partial. So what kind of angle did he turn from? Let's see. So there's about more than 90 degrees. Yeah, a bit more than 90 degrees. So maybe I'll say turn 80. His right leg can complete the turn no problems, because it's going to be standing still there for a majority of the shot, so there's time for it to ease in, and maybe this leg, like this point of turning, is good enough, and then start walking forward. Like there's no need to complete like these 2 frames. Especially this last one is very snappy, because you can see that over here is already slowing down, and all of a sudden there's a huge movement, there's a big one. Maybe in terms of numbers, the digits, the rotation is slowing down, but because of the design of his bottoms, there is this white line over here. It visually makes it seem like there's a lot of rotation. So that is just something that we have to take note as animators. Your numbers may make sense, but what's on screen may not. So what is more important is what you see on screen. And then you see further, there's this like snapping up and down. So it makes a sudden big movement, and it's fine, and it's even like still another big movement, and then it snaps up again. Weird, huh? Yeah, so this is the part about his body turn that I don't like.
That was so cool. In that one battle, they had Soundquake.
His walk is something definitely is very stylistic, and actually I was going to comment on the left leg again. Like this part, it looks as if he's holding the same position for way too long, but then it's normal. It's just the way that the camera cut his above the knee that it makes it look like the leg is not extending forward, but that's how we walk. It's just a little bit of a unfortunate camera placement, but it's fine. Tidal comes in again, good opportunity. And you see that once again the principle of human visual system being attracted to center. In the next frame, in the next shot, you see that our main characters are near the middle of the screen and they're walking, and actually as a unit they are quite big. This is the amount of, oh man, it's hard to draw. Yep. So this literally is how much screen space they are standing, as opposed to maybe a guy over here. You can see that it is much smaller. This lady over here, small. This guy is vertically tall, but horizontally not too big. I think the volume between these two is comparable. This one is very small. This is even smaller. So you can see that the one in red, the main characters, their volume is quite big. The amount of screen they stand is quite big. So that rides on top of our natural tendency to look towards the center of the screen, and plus they are walking, making movements, so our eyes will want to be drawn to them at this juncture immediately. It's a very natural kind of thing. And even though the main focus is these two, let's just say brothers walking, and there are other human characters in the background and foreground, do not neglect them. Make them have movement as well. So I'm just going to play this shot maybe 5 times. Choose one character in particular, one background, or 2 or 3 if you have the bandwidth, and just observe them, the background characters moving.
Tracer. Tracer.
Yeah, you see, they are moving, but they are not making huge movements that will draw your attention away from the main characters. Now I would want to draw your attention to the character in the foreground. Yep, over here. This lady over here. Okay, if you look at her right leg, you will see this hyperextended. Some people do walk like that. Their knees are hyperextended. I don't know if I've only seen it one guy. I've only seen it happen to one guy where the knees are hyperextended, and I'm not sure if I'm going on the right trajectory, but this usually happens to girls who learn ballet. Because I know in ballet you need to straighten your legs, and even though you think they are straightened already, it can still be straightened more, and that will lead to the hyperextension of the knees. Or maybe it's just the way their joints are made, that maybe the knees of females are more flexible, allowing them to hyperextend a little bit. So this is what we see here. There's a hyperextension on her right leg, and also it is kind of like a stylistic choice over here to make it hyperextend like that. Maybe the animator walks like that because when we animate walk cycles, we tend to animate the way we ourselves walk. Because what happens is we'll record ourselves walking to have what we call a reference footage, and then we will animate according to our reference image, unless we have somebody else's walk cycle to do it. And I just would like to point out that again, there is this mismatch between reality and what is acceptable on screen. So what happens is more likely than not, there is going to be a joint pop for that lady. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, that's it. I can find out. Okay, so what happens is normally when humans walk, if you have this as the thigh, and then where my fingers meet is the knee, so this is the shin calf area. When we are walking forward and we extend our legs straight, this is very natural, and then our heels will touch the floor, and then we will move our weight forward. Yeah. So what happens in animation is when the legs straighten like this and then the heels strike, at the next frame, more likely than there's going to be a knee pop that does this. It's very obvious on screen, and a lot of animators cannot accept that. For me, I have tried many times to animate that leg knee pop into a walk cycle, because I have observed that humans have knee pop, and a knee pop is not just front and back. There will be, like if this you're viewing the knee from the front, besides this sort of knee pop, there might also be left right popping as well when someone walks. So I've seen that in myself, I've seen that in others as well, and in fact I think everyone, when they walk, there will be a knee pop. But when it's put on screen, the pop looks a bit I wouldn't call it jarring, but others will call it jarring. To me, I think it adds flavor, it adds dynamism, it adds a certain unique touch that never ever got approved. Out of the 10-20 walk cycles that I've done, there's only one time that's been approved, and that's in my own walking cycle. That's my own demo reel. I put the knee pop in. It's mine, I don't care. I'm the one who did it. It's mine, I'll approve it. So yeah, so what happens when animators do walk cycles is like in humans, the knee will go straight, but in animation, it is never ever fully straight. So if this is straight, we will animate it like this, and then the heel will touch the floor, and then there's a smooth transition to the next part of the walk cycle as the weight shifts forward, and then the weight shifts forward and the leg gets lifted off for the next cycle.
Tracer. Yeah, Tracer.
Tracer.
Like, she is not the cavalry's here.
At this point in time, we don't know why is he behaving that way. Yeah, but over here you can still see that the background characters, that couple, I would say, they are moving slightly. They're not completely still.
That's Doofen's gauntlet. Oh man.
So, fingers on glass or flat surfaces, very difficult to do. I'm very impressed that it's even shown over here. You can look at his fingers, they are definitely flattened. I don't know how this is done, but if I were to look at his right middle finger over here, it looks as if the model, the vertexes are just deliberately flattened. So this is not some form of object collision or physics calculation. It could be possible that the model, like from what you don't see, sort of what you see actually. So like this guy, this boy over here, maybe down his arms over here, it may be a real model, and then his arms are simply just dangling down, and then the hands here could be some new model that has physics applied to it, because you cannot mix physics. If you want an object to have physics calculated, then it has to be a separate object. From when I left the industry, that's what it is. There could be changes that I'm not aware of, but so far from what I know, that is the most least resource intensive if you really want physics calculation and also have your model moving. That is the trick you can employ, but otherwise I would say that this is actually deliberate flattening, like pushing in the vertexes of the fingertips, so it looks a bit messed up, you know, like how your real flesh will be pushed against the glass. Looks good.
They said he could level a skyscraper. And remember, he was all fighting and Winston beat him and was like, Primal Punch!
Okay, so you see him punching left, the left hand punching right. Okay, primal power. Wow, look at his eyes. Sometimes animators do crazy things. This is something I didn't catch at all until I frame by frame here. Can you even see in real time?
Primal Punch! Primal Punch!
Not really. But sometimes animators, you know, hide stuff just to have a break from insanity. Okay, so you say that he punches with his left hand to the right, and then you see Winston completing the left punch, of course, but what you mainly see is Winston punching left with his right arm. It builds contrast, opposing arcs of action, which is important. If you were to think about it, if you see the boy punching right with his left hand, and in the next shot when you see Winston, he is also punching right with his left hand, it will look weird. It's like the duplicity doesn't fit very well. But in this sense, you see a punch like this and then a punch like this, it looks much better. Now, let me just confirm something. Yeah. So why then does this work? Why then does Winston's right hand punch, coincide well with the boy's right hand punch? I don't know. Nah. Because it has a strong pose at the end, and we can see that it is an end to the action already. And also from here we can tell that there is an overlap of action. The boy is imitating Winston. It just so happens that it needs to go with the flow, you know. Like if the boy were to do a left hand punch here, and Winston does a left hand punch as well, how would the cut come? Because it needs to cut back to the boy, right? It will look weird. So what makes this work is, first, there already is an opposing arc of action. Yeah. The boy will have one over here, and then Winston later over here, and then the boy continues the arc to finish like this. So there's a flow. It transitions well, hence making the same hand punch work. Hope I'm making sense over here.
That's only in the holovids. Everybody knows Overwatch.
Now we know why the hooded boy
are just mercenaries.
behaves the way he does. Again, when the shock comes, you see that this boy in the foreground react a lot more. There's two reasons why. One is because he's in the foreground. He is the main character. He's in the foreground, so give him big action. Secondly, he is already doing this sort of action, you know, like faking some power, boom. So when the ground shakes, it's going to come as a shock to him. Like, he knows nothing is supposed to be happening, but yet something big happened, and hence it's like he's confused. But whereas if you look at the background characters, they react much less. One is because they're background characters. Secondly is there's nothing that should alert them too much. You know, they may actually think that it's just some big piece of machinery that fell somewhere. So like even you see the guy on the right over here, he got a bit of, you know, preparedness, but then he sort of relaxed a little bit because he dropped his right arm. Yeah, looking around like, oh, nothing's happening. He's ready to relax already. Now in this shot over here, we can see two kinds of cognitive preference, I would say. Two groups, very obvious two groups. So the first one is a group that favors flight, and then you have a second group who favors fight. So our primitive brain is really split into fight or flight response, you know. When you meet danger, will you fight or will you run? So the flight group, they choose to run. You know, at the drop of a dime, they run, while the others stick around and try to analyze things that happen. I wouldn't call it so much that there is a difference between introversion or extroversion, because introverts can fight, introverts can run as well, extroverts can run or they can fight as well. So there's like personality is not a strong, no, I would say maybe personality has a play, but it's just that the introversion extroversion part of personality measure is not so much the determinant of the fight or flight response. It's just the way the brain is wired genetically, and also through environmental factors, your upbringing, your experiences, they all change your fight or flight response. I used to be a flight kind of person, or maybe even worse, I just freeze. I get stunned, freeze a little bit, and then I don't know what to do. Then I may choose to run, but normally I'll just like do nothing. But now I think I've slowly shifted towards the fight response. So yeah, over time you may change, but your majority of people, they don't devote effort into changing this part of the brain. Not brain, like this aspect of that behavior. Right, the grappling hook. So I once had a senior animator, also my mentor, tell me, when you have a piece of rope flying in the air, you can make it do crazy stuff. You can make it fly, and it will look believable. In this shot, Blizzard chose to do sinusoidal wave movement, and then at the end of it, it straightens. The straightening part, I'm not too convinced, but then again, it still looks convincible. It still looks convincing. Yeah. Convincing, right? The only thing that, from what my mentor said about the making the rope fly like crazy, I've never had the opportunity to animate ropes, so I cannot put it to the test. I can't attest for it. So I'm only repeating what my mentor said. Try it if you want, but if anything goes wrong, we are not held responsible. Yeah. Okay, Widow flies up. So over here is a very interesting change of pace. You see that Widow obeys physics. As she goes up, she slows down, and then when she comes down, she goes a bit faster. But what makes it snappy is the way she draws a weapon. It's so snappy. Very quick, isn't it? It's unnatural, but yet it gives that oomph to make it a good change. It just adds a little bit of special touch to the shot.
Enjoying the exhibit? All right, playtime's over. Get to cover.
I certainly do not like this part from 2:16 to 2. Or is it 2:06? Nah. Yeah, it's around 2:16. Yeah.
Enjoying the exhibit? All right, playtime's over. Get to cover.
I just think that this is a little bit too drawn out, too long. And also, it makes Widow a completely bad shot, man. Winston is completely still, and yet she cannot hit the head but only hit the shoulder. So what I've done differently is, when Winston lands and he gets shot like this, I'll make him jump forward immediately and not do this growl thing. Then I will not make Widow shoot.
Enjoying the exhibit?
So let Winston immediately talk, like, hey, enjoying this minute? I don't know what he says here.
Alright, playtime's over.
Then enjoy this minute. Yeah, he gets shot. And then I won't do the angry growl thing here again. I'll just immediately say, alright, playtime's over. Get into cover.
Alright, playtime's over. Get to cover.
Come on.
Then, when he completes saying get to cover, I will let Winston get shot. Widow open fire again, and then cut to this part.
Come on, move it.
Yeah, and then Winston growls again. Makes sense. So here's the thing that I say why Widow is such a bad shot. From what I know, anything that is like greyish is actually not armor, but it's actually like cloth. Normal cloth from what we saw in the previous shot about Winston. But yeah, you know, and actually Winston's head is exposed over here. But yet somehow Widow chose to shoot at the jetpack, the shoulder area. Yeah, it's just like Reaper comes in. Reaper comes in, takes the attention away from Winston, giving Widow the freedom, the opportunity to actually scout around the environment to look for this glove, Doomfist's glove.
What are you looking at?
It's a good introduction to the characters. Over here, I'll tell you that a character teleported. Can you catch who teleported? Oh, before that. Look at Widow's movement. Sweet. She lands from the grappling hook, does almost a 360, and then she steps backward from the momentum and then starts walking forward again and shooting. Wow, it's just like very nice touch, you know. Alright, back to the teleporting character. Let's look at this sequence here. Somebody teleported. Who teleported here? One last chance for you. Let's have the review. If you say Reaper teleported, you are right. It is Reaper that teleported. Now let's look. Keep your eyes on Reaper, on where he is. Okay, now you see Winston climbing this spider thing. Then Reaper is here beside the pot, the spider pot. And then Widow is in the foreground. Okay, so in this shot, Widow is in the foreground, closer to the foreground because the two boys are at the foreground. Widow is closer to the foreground. Reaper is at the background. Winston is at the background. Then Winston jumps up into the air, jetpacks up. You last see Reaper around the vicinity of the spider pot. Winston must have jumped quite some bit of distance to miss Widow with this smash, and all of a sudden Reaper is here. Hey, where did he come from? Yeah, and look at his like broken joints here. It just has to happen sometimes, you know, to make very strong posing. And good shift of advantage. You don't really see it. It's very subtle. when Winston leapt up into the air, it's very obvious that the advantage is on Winston's and Tracer's side. Like Widow and Reaper is on the retreat. But when the grenade launcher pops out, boom, boom, you see Reaper's walking forward. He has the confidence to move forward because he knows he's got Winston pinned and Tracer as well. And on the note of grenade launchers, man, I tell you, those things are freaking heavy, man. And they don't make a lot of sound when you fire them, but they hurt like hell, man. So I don't know, maybe it's the kind of grenade launcher that I fired, because it's fired from the shoulder. When you pull the trigger, you hear nothing, just a click, and then the grenade flies out, and the recoil is actually quite huge. And the recoil is so huge that when it pushes back, like these things are like, this grenade launcher is designed to break your clavicle, you know. It's like so painful. It's like, oh, I almost like cried in pain, man. Like when the whole grenade launcher like recoiled back into my clavicle, that was insane. Then I had the opportunity to fire another one, so I reloaded, and I thought to myself, okay, maybe it's my own fault, you know, like I didn't hold the grenade launcher close or tight enough to me. Then I even deliberately like pushed the grenade launcher like outside to my shoulder, like let my arms and shoulder take to hold the butt of the grenade launcher and not like closer to my body, because when you're closer to the body you can bear the weight better, but outside you bear the weight less, you're less able to bear the weight, but it's still fine because you're shouldering the weapon. I pulled the trigger and somehow the butt like smashed in my clavicle again, so it's times 2 the pain. Is just nuts, man. Grenade launchers. So the first time I saw Tracer do this air jump spin thing, I thought it's pretty good. It gives like comedic flair, gives a certain dynamism to the animation, but the more I watch it, the more I don't like it. But then again, there isn't a very good solution or change that I can recommend, because this is done to fit in the camera flow. It goes up and it comes down, and then it goes left to focus on Widow, and then it flows back to the right to focus on Reaper. As Tracer extends the left hand up, the camera goes right. And on top of that, it actually fits to the music. If I play this like maybe 2 or 3 times, you listen to how the camera movement coincides with the music. Maybe you can't hear it. Whoops, a little bit too late. Yep. Can you hear it? Die. The Blizzard's product placement here is just like awesome, and the Hearthstone reference. This is another game by Blizzard. This is just amazing, you know. This thing caught many people's attention, and a lot of people are very amused by it. I think it's very genius on Blizzard's touch. So over here you have a lot of security cameras, screens. I mentioned this in May's critic, the Rise and Shine, that animation. I first talked about the alpha layers. Over here there are alpha layers as well again. So what you're doing is very easy. You just render what the camera sees and you just place it as an alpha layer onto the screen. The only thing about alpha layers is you cannot preview it in real time. So if you want to see what it actually looks like in your final product, you have to render the scene. So I will assume that this shot, this sequence over here probably got rendered like, I don't know, 50 times maybe. It can get that ridiculous, you know, like maybe something don't work, one small thing don't work, you have to re-render the entire thing. So what you want to do is, instead of rendering the entire sequence, maybe just render one frame, one complete frame like this, and then you see, oh, does it fit what you are looking for? And then maybe the next time you test, maybe render 24 frames, 1 second is enough. And usually when I see these kind of shots, right, I will try to look out if the camera angles, they make sense. So they actually do. Some of the screens, they cover each other's angle. I cannot really remember which ones. I think this and this one, they are actually looking at the same scene. Okay, so on the bottom left, you see the boys running out. I cannot remember which ones. Okay, found them. Is this and this one? Maybe this one? I cannot confirm. Like, you will see Winston running in all three screens. Like for the center one, when Winston is near the spider pod, you see him appearing up in the top right one. Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. And then you see Reaper rounding the corner of the spider pod, and you see Reaper in the middle of the screen as well, rounding. And of course you have Widow shooting as well. Yeah, so all this is very easily achieved. So long as your camera angles are fixed nicely, you animate the characters properly, there shouldn't be any animation errors over here. As I mentioned before, sense of power, pinky closes first. You see in his left hand. Left hand is not so obvious, you know, you have to be very fast to catch it, but more so in his right hand. You see he closes his pinky first. And why is it not closed all the way? Because he can't do it, because he's got like these spikes on his finger. Judging from the spin of this dust, anti-clockwise spin, I would say that if they are on Earth, they will be in the northern hemisphere. So this is something called the Coriolis effect. Hurricanes originating in the northern hemisphere will have an anti-clockwise spin. Hurricanes originating in the southern hemisphere of the Earth will have a clockwise spin. This is due to the Earth's rotation and the movement of air, which gives the hurricanes this sort of spin. So you see over here is anti-clockwise spin. Definitely they should be in the northern hemisphere. It's unclear why her suit powered down. Is it because of Reaper's death blossom, or is it like she's run out of charges? It's a little bit unclear here. Oh, where did she pull her pistol out from? Not too apparent. She pulled it out from somewhere, right? It's very clear. Somewhere here. You see her drop the pistol, and it goes into her attachment below her forearm. So could that be how she reloads her pistol as well? Maybe. That's some good IK animation. The teeth grid is something that I never noticed before when I watched it. it gives a good insight to her mental state. Like she's thinking, oh crap, again, maybe. And then look at her left eye. It darts down. Then she realizes that, hey, there's somebody here. Then the entire head moves down to put them in the focus. And then you see the two characters. So that usually is how we will react to things that we see. Stimulus. We may catch it out of the corner of our eye. And once it catches our attention, we will turn our entire head to view it directly.
Don't worry, loves. Cavalry's here.
So I mentioned before in the May critic that eye darts are really good, and I would say important. But over here, you observe a phenomenon where the hooded guy, he has no eye dart at all. Why is his eye not darting? Because he's already in the middle of the screen. He has a lot of real estate given to him. So he don't really need this sort of small detail movement to give him flair. And also, just think about his state of mind. Like he's more of a skeptical kind of mental state right now. He's evaluating what Tracer said. So the lack of eye dart can actually make sense. So even like I'll prefer to have a little bit, but even if there's none, it's still fine. But what you see is the smaller kid on his left will exhibit eye darts.
Cavalry's here.
Yeah, you see it? Yo. So this is done to give some attention to the smaller boy. Otherwise, he may just be forgotten on screen, you know. Because all your attention is on the hooded guy, because he is in the middle of the screen and he has a lot of real estate over here. And declockwise spin.
Come, big guy. Get up.
This is just very well done, sweetly done. 3 characters huddle in behind a wall,
Big guy. Get up.
and then yet they are all looking at different things at different points in time. So Tracer obviously is looking out to Winston. Then you have the younger boy looking at the hooded boy. Let's just call them brothers, okay? Younger brother looking at the elder brother. The elder brother is looking out to the glasses of Winston that just fell out to the ground. Tracer is as well. Then Tracer leans out and looks at Winston's body. Hooded guy looks at Tracer. The younger boy looks at the glasses. Then the hooded boy looks towards Winston's direction while the younger kid maintains his vision on the glasses. So this gives variety. You wouldn't want all 3 of them looking at the same thing. And I would say that it's not possible realistically for the younger kid to be looking at Winston as well. He will either have to jostle for space, or he will have to do some huge movement that will catch our attention and just spoil the look of this shot here. And really, him looking off into another direction is good enough, it's variety enough, and it makes sense as well.
Big guy. Get up. Oh no.
Walking forward, looking down, slow walk. A slow forward walk looking down gives a menacing vibe. Teleporting characters again. This one is much more forgivable. But first maybe I can talk about the stretch and squash of Winston. Or can I? Is it here? Right. Okay, so I gotta talk about the disappearing characters first. Okay, so Winston is here. Then there should be Tracer and Gang over here, but right now you don't see them. And I'm just wondering, like, is this spike thing here like their hair? It doesn't look like Tracer's hair. It can be, but it doesn't look like it. So it might be something else. And from what I would say is actually it is disappearing characters to save on rendering resources. But this one is much more forgivable because you don't really see it anyway. And I like how Reaper's foot exhibits the squashing mechanic. So he first steps on the glass, then as his weight gets fully planted, directed into the ground, driven into the ground, there is expansion to the sole of his boot. And then it's Winston's turn. Like he punched the ground, then there's a squashing, and then a stretching before he goes up. Raw. Why does the suit power up again? No explanation. Is it because of Winston's primal rage? Or is it because she has waited long enough and the suit has recharged? Not clear. So looking down, internal thought, the hooded boy. Looking up at an object, thinking with the squinting of the eye. She waited long enough. Okay. I didn't know you can remove messages yourself.
Stay here.
A good showcase of two differing characteristics of characters. Winston is big and should be slower, and Tracer is more nimble and quicker, so you see her overtaking Winston. But in actuality, gorillas should outrun humans. It's just so good, like Reaper disappearing in dust. Okay, not yet. So you see Widow picking up her rifle. There is a bit of cheating here, like shifting the rifle that is on the floor. Because when we see Widow land, the rifle is already coming to a stop. She is obviously stopped already. So there's a bit of distance between her and the rifle. Yet in the next shot of Widow, the rifle is in her hands. She stayed in the air a bit too long, right? Yeah. Tracer stays in the air a little bit too long. And I'll ask you over here, Widow's grappling hook is really amazing. What is she hooked onto? How long is a grappling hook? Really? Like, what is it hooked onto? Invisible wall, maybe? And one good attention, nice touch to the detail is when Winston lands on the glass over here, it just cracks the thing. Crack, and then actually you see a stretch in his hands. That's some huge stretch. and then jetpacks up.
You know, the world could always use more heroes.
Again, there is asymmetry in the lead animation. It just points that they were done using facial mocap, because like these are just way too good to be done by hand. Unless the animators we're talking about here has like, I don't know, 10 years of experience doing faces. Because if you look at Tracer's mouth, the right side is very asymmetric. The left almost doesn't move, but the right makes most of the talking movement.
You know, the world could always use more heroes.
Actually, all the characters, they exhibit this sort of asymmetric movement in their mouth.
That was awesome!
Yep, then over here there's a distinct nice contrast from the mood. Like you have one serious, like, you know, shit happen, you have explosions, you have battle, you have gunfire, you putting on the equipment of some hero and punching Widow. Then most people will be either be like shocked, stunned into silence, frozen, not doing anything, or they may have a lot of internal things they don't know how to react. And then you always will have this one oddball who will think that it is awesome anyway.
That was awesome!
And it's just great that his pose is so exaggerated here. There is no way a real human can do that and still not fall over. This is the exaggeration that we're talking about in animation, and also this ties into strong posing as well. A very strong pose.
Was awesome!
And then it ends. Just in time for this to end. So yeah, coming to this is the end of the critique. Comments, questions, shoot them in. Otherwise I'll be going away to eat some fruits, watch some videos, maybe play some games. 1:07. So I've streamed this for 1 hour and 7 minutes. It's a bit strange because I thought I started a little bit late, a few seconds past 9. And yet it says I'm live for 67 minutes. Nothing coming in. Okay, then we shall end the stream here, and I'll see you guys next week at the same time. Mondays 8 p.m. at GMT plus 8. You calculate whatever conversion that you need to for your own time zone. Yep, we'll still be looking at Overwatch animations. There's still quite a few to go, so this stream can last quite a while. Yeah, I'll be here next week, and I'll see you guys next time.